Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today we're continuing our ongoing coverage of the war between the Russian Federation and the Ukraine. Now, today I want to cover a series of engagements that are and have not been covered by the Western mainstream media. These are the battles that were taking place on the eastern bank of the Dnieper River, specifically in the area of Krinky, this area here. And I want to show you the update on this map. So you can see here, as of July 17th, the areas around Krinky were disputed. And then on the 18th, that all changes, as all this was, according to at least the deep state map, was taken controlled by Russian forces. Now, look, this is a Ukrainian supporting service, mapping service. They tend to wait until there is unrefutable evidence that Russian forces have moved into a certain area. So we believe Krinky was actually seized several days ago. Now, what is also not being reported is the fact that there are approximately 1,000 Ukrainian Marines that were deployed within the vicinity of Krinky in this area, and they have gone missing. It is believed that it's possible most have been killed in action or wounded in action. Now look, back several months ago, even going back to the failed Ukrainian counteroffensive, we were trying to cover this Ukrainian operation, this very unwise Ukrainian operation to cross the Dnieper River. They did this with light infantry formations. They did not cross the Dnieper River in force. This was designed to draw media attention from the failed Zaporizhzhia offensive in the direction of Robotyne, south of Orikhiv, and also state that Ukrainian forces were conducting operations in the Kherson region in efforts to possibly drive towards the Crimean Peninsula. Now look, what was supposed to happen for the Ukrainians was that operations in the east, south of Orikhiv, were supposed to be much more successful. They believed that they were going to push very deep, seize control of Tokmak, roll up Russian forces, break Russian morale, and cause a general collapse of the Russian military south of Orikhiv, and that did not happen. The Ukrainians, made very little headway south of Orikhiv, and all that territory has now essentially been retaken by Russian forces. This was it. This was the extent of that failed Ukrainian counteroffensive. But to draw attention away from that failed operation, the Ukrainians decided to launch a part of the amphibious operation designed to move into the eastern bank of the Dnieper River in the Kherson region, and thereby threaten the Crimean Peninsula over land. Now, the intent was never to move heavy material across the Dnieper River onto the eastern bank. Again, they were just looking to say, hey, look what we've done. We've launched amphibious operations. We've seized territory on the eastern bank of the Dnieper River. We're winning. But what they ended up doing was costing the lives of thousands of very capable Ukrainian naval infantry marine forces. These Ukrainian Marines suffered through the winter, many of them with frostbite in horrible conditions. The Russians really saw no need to move large numbers of forces towards these what are essentially swamplands to drive the Ukrainian forces out. The Russians knew that it was not practical for Ukrainian forces that were operating in Krinky, in these swamplands and in the urban areas near Krinky. The Russians knew that they were not going to be able to break out. They don't have any vehicles. These were all straight-legged infantry on all-terrain vehicles, and that was about it. No heavy armor, nothing like that. No large columns of armored personnel carriers or MRAPs or anything of the sort were moved across the Dnieper River. It was all infantry units. And those infantry units were not going to be able to break out of these areas and threaten Russian forces in Kherson proper. So the Russians just proceeded to shell these forces in perpetuity, and then finally we get a map update, and bam, it's gone. What's also gone is approximately 1,000 Ukrainian Marines that cannot be accounted for. Very little information on this catastrophe is being reported by Western media, or for that matter, really the Ukrainian media as well. So very concerning. The Ukrainian regime, and look, I have to call it a regime anytime you suspend the Constitution, and more importantly, you eliminate the quote-unquote democratic processes. You know, look, Ukraine is the beacon of democracy, right? The beacon of democracy. And elections have been suspended. And we don't know when or if elections will be reinstituted in the borderlands, in the Ukraine. It appears Volodymyr Zelensky has a full grip on power and does not want to relinquish that grip on power. And what happens if you threaten that grip on power? Well, you become a diplomat assigned to the United Kingdom. That's what happens. You essentially get disappeared into luxury. Yeah. Anyway, that's what's happened. Now, Russian offensive operations continue northwest of Avdiivka. We're also getting reports that there is a large-scale buildup of Russian forces in Zaporizhzhia. Now, look, we don't know if this is designed to try and draw Ukrainian forces in anticipation for further Russian offensive operations in areas such as Kharkov, or possible operations against Sumy. This area here, we've also heard about a Russian buildup in this area, and then obviously a less of a buildup to the north of Chernihiv as well, just across the Belarusian border. Now we know that there are Chinese forces, there are even North Korean forces that have been moved into Belarus and are conducting military exercises with Russian and Belarusian forces. Very interesting. The European community, the EU, NATO, the current regime in charge of the ununited States of America, has created the largest military alliance that has ever been seen on the planet Earth. That is the combination of the military forces of China, the Russian Federation, the Democratic People's Republic of North Korea, Iran, Venezuela, and the list continues to grow. And we expect, as we have talked about before, at a certain point, there will be global war. Apogee in the West will win, will fall. And here we are. So again, watching very, very closely what happened in Krinky. We will probably never get the full details on the catastrophe that took place with the Ukrainian Marines in Krinky. Again, very little information is being reported about the catastrophe and the devastated Ukrainian Marine unit that was destroyed in Krinky. and then the Russian offensive continues, and then there's an additional buildup near Zaporizhzhia and in other areas as well. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. More information to follow. We believe that there is going to be a major uptick in fighting very soon. As always, thank you for joining us. Have a good day.